How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Dr. Joe Show. Here we are yet again, and I'm always so blessed that you guys are such a loyal group and audience. Although there's so much going on in the world these days, I mean, we talk about it with some frequency, the stress that's happening, the global anger response, the cortisol levels that are going through the roof throughout the world. But at least for this small amount of time, we can all keep it frontal, don't go limbic, and we can just be listening and sharing our thoughts with each other. Because really, remember, every friend was once a stranger. There are billions of friends out there in the world. I'll tell you what I've been doing recently, guys. I've been posting on Facebook, my Joseph Schrand Facebook, not the Dr. Joe Facebook, a phrase of mine. So I do a phrase a day, and I'd be really interested in what you guys think. So every friend was once a stranger, was once of them. But also think about this. I've worked hard to be this lucky, right? Because we think, oh, look what happens. It's so lucky. But think about it. I've worked hard to be this lucky. And what I'm delighted to say is so has our guest for tonight. So with that in mind, let me introduce our guest. Since she first fell in love with writing in high school, our guest has been a journalist, a columnist, a blogger, and communications professional. Her first article appeared in Rockford Magazine in 1987, and she's interviewed and written features on Beverly Sills, Judy Collins, Gene Siskel, and Debbie Reynolds. This author's writing has been featured in the New York Times bestseller, The Right Words at the Right Time, Volume 2, Your Turn, and Chicken Soup for the Souls, the Cancer Book, 101 Stories of Courage, 101 Stories of Courage, Support and Love. Her debut novel, God Bless the Child, which I'm delighted to say we spoke about on this show way back when, 2024, June 13th. That was the first in the newly extended 4-book Women of Paradise Country series. Anne Shaw Heinrich and her husband are parents to 3 grown children and a new grandchild. She is passionate about her family, mental health advocacy, and the intrepid power of storytelling. Folks, welcome with me, Anne Shaw Heinrich. Pleasure to have you here. How are you, Anne?
Thank you so much.
What's been going on with you? I haven't seen you in
so many good
years.
Things.
Yeah,
so many good things. Yeah. So, the book, the series has really taken off, and since we last talked, it feels like it's gone by really quickly. But during that time, have definitely been doing a lot of writing.
I bet. And
yeah.
What's your actual format and your style? Do you just like wake up in the morning and start, or what's
I do not. In full transparency, I still work full time. I'm in communications at Washington University in St. Louis, and so that's my day. I lovingly refer to this as my side hustle, but it takes up an awful lot of space in my brain and in my heart. And I'm really, really, again, just thankful to be in the space. And I do a lot of writing at night.
Yeah.
I work full time and on the weekends. And I have a lovely husband who indulges my passion for this. And so it works out. Yeah.
That's so important. Well, you certainly have worked hard to be this lucky. I mean, this is not luck. So the next book coming out, what did you say, June 16th?
June 16th, yes.
House of Teeth, the third in this series of books. So without giving anything away, how do we talk about this? Folks, I've read it. Definitely worth picking up. Get on the list if you can early on, because June 16th is the release date.
Yeah. You know what? It's so, I think I probably shared this with you earlier, but when I wrote the first book, God Bless the Child, that was meant as a standalone, right? And I wrote it as a standalone. And then I had written some other pieces and shared with my editor. And it was at that time that he said, I'm wondering, could the tone is kind of, it's the same tone and feel. This really could be very powerful as a series.
Hmm.
And but the initial book was not written that way. So, but what that provided was a way to kind of go back in and connect some of those pieces. And it tends definitely toward,
Yeah.
small town living. But definitely qualifies as contemporary fiction.
Mm.
And I really, really love to take deep dives into character development. That's my favorite thing to do. I love to watch people and just kind of imagine where they've come, where they're
Yeah.
headed. Yeah, and so
I,
that's kind of a joy spot for
I,
me.
I can so relate to that. For me, sometimes, I'll just be walking on the street or something, or see a stranger, and I'll think that person has an entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, what's going on today for them? What was going on yesterday? What are their plans for tomorrow? It's remarkable, isn't it? All these
It
people around us, each
is.
one with
All
a
these
life.
people that we know nothing about, or we can make some quick assumptions, which is I'm afraid we do quite a bit of that in today's
Well,
world.
that's
And
very true.
I think there's usually more to the story. There's always more to the story.
Yeah. Oh,
Everybody deserves that grace.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. I mean, I remember once this guy, a complete stranger, put a sign up on my lawn saying he was having a yard sale. And I could have gotten really angry about it, but I thought, why is this guy doing this? So I went out and spoke with him. He got very defensive at first, think I was going to say something. But then the story came out. He was having a yard sale because his wife had unexpectedly passed away the year before, and he could not tolerate getting rid of one thing until. And if you don't ask, would never have known that story. Powerful
Never.
story. So let's go back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's tell the audience a little bit about God Bless the Child and
Right.
how that starts off this series.
Well, what's been interesting. So God bless the child. I probably the best way to approach that is to talk about themes,
Yeah,
and definitely it all what unites all four of the books are certainly some of the characters that come and go, but also the place, which is a fictional small Midwestern town. So that's what unites it. But I would say if I'm theming these, book one, if you remember, God bless the child was really had a lot to do with trauma
Mhm.
and defining motherhood, the varying ways you can think about motherhood and mother-daughter relationships. And it really delved into quite a bit about that. There was some mental illness, a lot of those themes. And when I started writing, all of that matters, and it was important, I think. Book two, when I started writing book two, it really turned into a social justice book quickly. Violet is blue. And, what I did was kind of take a new storyline, that so they're all living in community with one another. But, Violet is blue really did turn into a deep dive into social justice. And I'm really proud of that book. I am, just because I think the topics, it really takes a really I think one of the reviews said unflinching, and I took that as a compliment because
Yes.
talking about poverty and how juxtaposed poverty and wealth and that messy in between are really, we're butted up against it all the time, right? We in a small town, the difference is if you're poor, people know your name
Yeah.
and they know how you're poor and where you come from and where you live. And so it really explores a lot of that. And not only, from adult sensibilities, but also from young people who are born into it, into these situations, either having a lot or having almost nothing. Kind of how are they alike and similar? And, how can they support? Yeah. And so I could explore that. I'll never be tired of thinking about how those intersect, you know.
And sadly, the judgment that we have about someone if they're poor.
It's terrible. It's terrible. In fact, there is some reference to it in book three, but in book two, there's Violet, and so, but there's a character she actually comes from upper middle class and does quite well, but she's experienced something horrific and but becomes friends with a young man who lives on the other side of the tracks, and his name is Jules. And Jules, I've come to just really love him, and he's born to really difficult circumstances, really hard to think about. And I feel like I was able to describe that because I've seen it
Yeah, really.
as a child
Huh.
and looking back on it with adult sensibilities and thinking, wow. So for instance, Jules and his little sisters live in a certain part of town called Shakey's Half, which is kind of where that town is just kind of known. If you're from Shakey's Half, you're poor. Those kids are all on free lunch.
Yeah.
Those kids get sent, they're the families that get sent home every time when there's a head lice check at school, like just very rigid rules and living within those.
Yeah. And Jules is, main character. And I love that moment where, snow day, which used to mean that they wouldn't get any food.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For poor kids, a snow day means, they're if you come from a comfortable place, a snow day means, your mama's making hot soup and grilled cheese and and that's all lovely and can be celebrated too. But, Jules and his sisters do get, someone does eventually save them from from this situation. But it doesn't mean that their struggles are completely over because especially Jules, he remembers exactly what it was like. And, but just, he's had people come into his life to help him see some pockets of joy and hope that I don't think he ever considered for himself. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
what's wonderful is every now and then, like basically three times a show, I get these also pockets of joy and hope. Not that chatting with you is not that, but
yeah.
some of the hope for me comes from our sponsors because they continue to support me. And so with that in mind, let's hear from the sponsors of this. Then we're going to come back and talk about House of Teeth and Jules and others. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show. And we are back with the Dr. Joe Show and my wonderful guest, Anne Shaw Heinrich, our writer, who is in the middle of basically writing not a trilogy, but what do you call it?
Do you call that?
A quadrilogy? I mean,
I do not know.
you know,
I need to look that up.
you got to look that up because it's going to be four books, right?
It will be four books,
this is
and
the
I'm grateful for it, and I'll tell you why. As I was initially, it was a trilogy, once we made the decision about the series, and I was really needing to wrap it up, do it in a way that would A, do the characters justice, be consistent with the pacing and style of the first two books, and it was just getting harder and harder to do that without it just turning into War and Peace kind of and not doing it very elegantly. And so I'm thankful that I've got this gives me a little bit of elbow room and wiggle room to finish the series in a way that'll be, I think, satisfying for readers, but maintain again, like the authenticity with the rest of the series.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and the continued growth of the characters you develop. And I
Yeah.
wanted to actually talk about one of them, Jules,
Yes.
because I such an interesting fellow. But the name itself, somebody who was from poverty, in essence, is that fair to say?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yet his name is associated with some of the things that we treasure the most, our jewels in life. How was that just a
I,
coincidence, Anne, or was that an
you know,
unconscious play? Or like, where'd that come from?
Jules, I always thought Jules, and in fact, another character to whom he becomes quite close, and you know this,
Yeah,
having read House of Teeth, is someone who was a teacher of his first, and then became, someone who was very much like a mother figure. Her name is Sally.
yeah,
So she's Aunt Sally. And Aunt Sally makes the observation that his name is Jules Martin Marks, which sounds very dignified and like he should have been, that sounds like a child who would have come from, not from Shakey's half, right? That he might turn into a banker who wears suits and cufflinks.
yeah,
And so and she first meets Jules when he's in kindergarten and he's dirty and she has to send him home and it's just heartbreaking for her and for him, but she's like, how did this little boy with big beautiful brown eyes and a deep dimple, but he's skinny and he just gobbles up his free lunch, and how did this kid get a name like Jules? And I think that's it was kind of intentional actually, because I thought it's my hope, and it's happening through House of Teeth, and then I'm about a third of the way into the fourth book, and
great.
Jules is a yeah, and he's growing into his name.
Yeah,
He's growing into a young man who recognizes that he does have some agency.
yeah.
And
I
yeah.
don't want to be a spoiler, but there was this moment in the book where I got teary, and it had to
Oh,
do with that interaction with his teacher,
yeah.
moment with the tooth fairy.
Yes.
And just imagine this, folks. I mean, we have this idea, this tooth fairy. We want our kids to believe these things, but if it's okay, it's spoil. He doesn't have a pillow
Doesn't
to,
have a
to put
pillow.
to put the tooth under, and
Right.
so he worries and worries. And I got to tell you, Anne, when I read what the teacher did, I truly got choked up. I thought that was
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and Jules is a combination of little boys that I remember.
Yeah,
And, as a child, you don't quite know what to do with that, or it seems like all the adults are okay with this situation. It seems to be kind of what's accepted. And so as a child, you figure those things out. And, he's also a kid, who has a different color lunch ticket than everybody else.
nice.
Well, why on earth do you need a different color lunch ticket? What? What are we
Why
talking
pose
about?
right, right. But the tooth fairy bite, it just reminds me
Oh,
when
yeah,
my eldest daughter, Sophie, who's her own science comedy TV show, Science with Sophie, when she realized that we had, well, I guess, lied about Santa Claus,
sure.
she got really quiet and she turned to me and she said, Dad, does does that mean there's no tooth fairy either? And I was like, I'm sorry.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry. Sorry, Sophie. But
Yes.
this idea that, we want magic in the world. And then this person brings this magic to this young man who's suffering with poverty. And the idea that we still have this uneven distribution of wealth in our entire world. And that's part of where we have all these conflicts, you know. It-
It is. And I've had it pointed out to me, that, you know, so you probably, I would say, just as I said, Violet is Blue is a social justice book. I would say House of Teeth is also what
yeah.
you just read is also very much in that social justice vein about just forcing, or not really forcing, I don't like that word, inviting a reader to just consider some things that are kind of are hard to talk about and hard to think about. And I'm not even someone who's experienced it. I've
Right.
I don't know if that's some sort of survivor guilt or what, I've always been firmly entrenched in the middle class. And thankful for that, but recognizing that, those lines are wafer thin, truly.
So true. And
Yeah.
and it can turn on a, no pun
On a
intended,
dime,
no
right?
pun intended, but yes, on a dime. Right?
So many people, and especially today, like if you're a social justice warrior, I appreciated your opening comment about cortisol, because I'd say over the last 10 years or so, really, I'm a news junkie, and uh, I really have to be mindful about when I consume the news
Yes.
during the daytime because it's our responsibility to absolutely know what is happening in our world.
Yes.
But you do have to come at it at times that are healthy for you, and because
It
it
can,
it can raise the blood pressure.
yeah, it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And yet, books like this that illustrate this, illuminate it, are so important without pointing fingers. You're not blaming or shaming
Oh,
anyone. I mean, that's exactly the opposite. And yet, here's this kid with the special colored lunch card, which is potentially shaming. Why would you want to
is.
do that?
It is. And if you think about it, like I can remember, like subtly, if you think about, so if you're in elementary school, you instantly know if you're lined up. So first, if you brought your lunch, you line up for lunch. Lunchbox kids went first.
Mhm.
Then paid tickets, which were green. Yellow tickets were last. To a fourth grader, what that means, or even as you get older, you get a little bit wiser and start to kind of, what does that really mean? But to a child, it means that there won't be any chocolate milk left
Mm.
because everybody else will have grabbed the chocolate milks by the time the yellow lunch tickets get through. And it means that a snow day, you won't have lunch, right?
So always being at the end of the line, and then the
Yes.
rest of the world gets astonished why people feel there's inequity.
Right.
You don't get the chocolate milk because you're poor.
Right. I know what? What?
First of all, let's have enough chocolate milk for everyone, right? First of all, right? We'll start there. But if we can't do that, let's give it to people who don't necessarily get it at home.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how did you get into social justice to
Don't
begin with?
I don't know. I think maybe I'm just very conscientious. I suppose I consider woke to be a compliment. I, care about other people who aren't exactly like me. I'm interested. Like, to me, I do consider woke a compliment. I mean, it means you care about the world you're in. And I'll tell you, I like this matters to me even more. I'm a mom, of course. My children are grown, but now that I'm a grandmother and for the first time, and he is just a blessing. I mean, but the world is we're not in the best shape right now,
No,
and so I'll never give up, but I want to leave some kind of a legacy for him that, and some kind of a hope that we can't just stop talking about these things and pretend it's not there.
breathe.
I think his parents will be very good at fostering that in him. And I hope I get to see him grow into a young man. But yeah, those things matter.
I agree. I will put it out there that I'm completely jealous, and I hope my kids are listening because we do not have this next part of our legacy. No grandkids yet. So what's that like for you, Anne? I just
Joe, I have to admit, we've lost our minds. We are so in love with him. In fact, we were left. So his name is Paul, and he's 8 months, and he was actually born on my birthday.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And so I'll never need another birthday
Right.
present
What a
ever
birthday
again.
present. It's
Oh my
incredible.
gosh, it was magical. It was the best night. Yeah, and it's a real treat to watch your children become parents and
Mhm.
turn into, it feels like there's a new level of understanding, and they're doing great. They're great. They were ready for this. I do think, though, in fact, my husband Brett and I were laughing because we just like, I can't tell you, we're just constantly looking at videos, and any chance we get to go over there, we are on it. And we were talking the other day, about how cute he is and brilliant and, all those things. But he's, we're like, well, our kids were cute, weren't they? And they were, but I think the difference is you're not trying to keep them alive and keep them fed or whatever, like you're not in the day-to-day grind
Yeah.
of
See,
parent, so you're just like, wow.
that's
You can
such an
look at
interesting.
on it with some wonder. I hope it happens for you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it is that wonder, that observation that you made about it is different um, to have the responsibility until 6 o'clock, and then you can say, okay, I'm going back home. Kids staying with you, right? It's like,
Yeah, it's different. It really, really it is. And I also I catch myself saying things to my daughter she's such a good mama. But, like it goes by really, really fast, so just enjoy. It doesn't matter. I always say to her, I don't want you to ever feel like you need to get ready for us to visit. Like you've got a baby, nothing else, Matt, so you don't need to be ready for us to
right,
show
right,
up and have everything looking
right, right,
no, we
right.
don't care about that.
And it goes by fast. Just
Gosh,
just just as the sequence of our show go by fast. So
yeah.
with that in mind, let's take a nice, relaxed listen to our sponsors, and then we will come back with Anne Shaw Heinrich, and we're going to talk more about House of Teeth. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe. And we're back, the Dr. Joe Show, with our guest, multiple author, Anne. So we were offline for a moment. We're talking about, you know, 3 books already, another one coming up. Do you ever lose track of like where things are and how do you know which book? Because I mean, I feel the same way. I've got like 6 books now, and sometimes I think, okay, which book did I say this? Does that happen to you?
All the
Oh,
time.
okay.
All the time. And I have to do a lot of cheating and,
What do you mean
just
cheating?
reminding myself, like, so what did he
What,
say? Or,
what do you mean by cheating? What sort of cheating?
Well, cheating, I do have and this was with help from my editor. That's the blessing of having an editor. He
Absolutely.
knows the books as deeply and as detailed a way as I do, which is helpful. Because sometimes oh no, that didn't happen, or like we check each other, which is really lovely.
Okay.
Cheating meaning just lots of, this is the pretty copy of the ARC copy, but I think, lots of notes. I have messy copies of the books with footnotes. And then I also, because there are 4 books, it's all happening in the same time. I do keep a cheat, kind of like a timeline, chronological of how old people would be, different characters would be at certain times and what happened. So there aren't errors,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Got to
and
do
so
some
many
math.
voices too. I mean, because
Yeah.
folks, when you read the book House of Teeth, multiple chapters, but each chapter starts with a name, which is the perspective of that person in what you're about to read in the next few pages. That's fair to say?
Yeah, that's exactly, which I really love that because it allows you to give lots of different perspectives. It also allows you to play with describing an event from the perspective of more than one person. It
Yeah.
allows you to do some time slip kind of action, like
Yeah.
you can just jump all over. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Rashomon. Did you ever see the movie Rashomon? Remember that one years and years
Yes.
ago?
Yeah.
The different perspectives of a murder in the woods and how
Yeah.
person has a different view. But it's so interesting. How do you keep track then of the characters? Because they're well developed characters. Each one
Thanks.
clearly is different. And as I was reading it, I started to hear the voices of the different folks.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
It's interesting. So I will say I don't follow an outline. I don't write like that. I envy people who write like that. I just start writing and then often we'll do a kind of a great chapter shuffle with a lot of help from my editor about okay, the timing and when
Sure.
does it make sense to reveal this and when does it make sense to reveal that. But sometimes like if I'm in the mood, if I'm definitely in a I can go and write for 5 or 6 hours at a time and I'll just pour it out there. And I also do, I don't know if you've ever done this. This is a great tool. I listen to my drafts. You can, listen to them through Word or lots of
Sure.
other
Right, right.
technologies, but to hear it is really important because a lot of times by hearing it, you can hear, for one thing, it's a great way to catch word repetition. But it
Mm.
also you can catch like the rhythm of how someone would sound. Would they really say that? Or, does that sound natural? And so there's all kinds of tricks. And I'm learning all the time. I'd like to think that I'm getting more efficient, hopefully. I don't
Like
know.
to think that.
I'd like to, but that's what the fun part of it is it is messy.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Absolutely.
messy. And I like getting messy with it.
That's what the
You
creative
know,
process is. Do you
absolutely.
follow the storyline? So because the House of Teeth, I mean, it's there's so many different chapters, so many characters. Do you like just write Jules's perspective or
No,
Maurice's
but
perspective or
I'll tell you what I do. I know like what the main like events that I think are turning points,
okay.
you know, and deciding who needs to talk about that turning point first.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing that's interesting, there are characters, and this does require a lot of thinking. There are characters who have no voice at all. And, I've had people say, readers say, "Oh gosh, I wish we could hear." So I don't know if this is expecting a lot of you, but there's a character in book one, God bless the child, Pearl, who is
Yeah,
really compromised, and she doesn't have a
absolutely.
voice.
But we hear about her in House of Teeth.
Yes. And so, and I think that is actually really, frankly, how real life is. We don't
Yeah,
hear from everybody.
no, it's true.
you know? And so just deciding who can best tell those pieces and why do you do it at that time? And these books are not action packed. They
Yeah.
aren't. They're much
There's
more
but there's
inner
yeah,
thinking, inner
but there's
life.
story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of Pearl and the idea that there are so many people who we don't hear from, but that's not the same thing as not having a voice, is it? It's just
No,
we don't want to listen, or we don't encourage, or we intimidate, or we ignore, or we deny. There's a phrase in psychiatry: denial is not just a river in Egypt. So, right? So, you know, but you give them a voice.
yeah. And I I feel I'm really happy that it's a privilege to be able to, you know, doing this is also a privilege. You know what I mean? Like I do this from a point of privilege.
Hey,
I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming from or
right.
things like that. So I'm keenly aware of that. But I do, there are other characters in House of Teeth, for instance, who I think are really interesting. Like I Clarice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean she's full of contradictions. And I also think this book allows us to kind of really go in deep and explore some of the characters who step in and who are helping people like Jules and his family, because those people need to be, it ends up often not being their parents,
Right, right.
but they come in and uh, do that kind of that saving,
Yeah.
and they're not expecting really anything in return. No.
But without not being a spoiler,
Yeah.
but there's also, question of, morality in this, and then love, and how do these things blend, and the church is involved, and the way the church, turns against someone when they have no right to. And again,
Right.
it's not, I'm being purposely vague, audience.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want you to read it. But it does carry these themes that we struggle with, like adultery,
Right?
especially in a small town,
In a
right?
small town, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed exploring that relationship between
Yeah.
Clarice and John, because it is adultery, there's no question about it. But I thought it was really important to share it's also real love.
Yes, that's
They
what I'm saying is the
they
conflict
really
about that.
love each other
Yeah.
and are a comfort to one another. And so all those things I loved, it's so fascinating to explore when things seem like they shouldn't go together, but they're truths that exist together,
Yes.
and they seem like they should be conflicting and they are, but they exist in that same space. And that is fun.
And the
That is really
bonding.
fun.
I'm just thinking, how did we come up with the word adultery? For adults, it's
I
like,
don't know, right?
where did that come from? Adultery. So I can be an adult, doesn't mean I'm an adulterous, but interesting.
I know.
I'll
I'd
try.
have to do an exploration of that.
Yeah, we definitely have to. So,
Yeah.
of all the characters, are there any that you personally like related to, or
Hmm.
inspired by people that you know in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Eh,
Well, definitely Jules. Jules is a combination of little boys that a pack of little boys that I remember as a child, and just existed with in a small community. I guess you store things and,
Yes.
then they come back and then you're like, huh, now that I'm a grown up and I think about that, that was really, what was that about? You know? So definitely Jules. And I care very much about Jules. I really do. There's another character who I'm really fond of too, and that's Margaret Burns.
Yes.
And I've had a couple of readers come and say she's almost kind of serves as sort of like in some ways, this omniscient presence.
Yes.
She's coming back and, she has her own history with poverty and, being saved and finally has this opportunity to kind of move that forward,
Right.
but it's in some ways she's almost kind of like the Greek chorus on the side,
Yeah.
you know. I care about her a lot too. And she's probably a combination of physically, definitely like one of my grandmothers for sure, some of her habits and
And her kindness.
physicalities and yeah, yeah, yeah. And just people, nobody in particular, but just different combinations of people I've observed and wondered about. Yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't the writing process, and how we do draw from this deep, deep base of memory and then
Yeah.
create something with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wrote a piece that's a little sassy for Writers Digest. It'll be out
Okay.
soon. And it's about AI,
Okay.
on everybody's minds. And, I'm not going to let AI steal my joy. I like that. It's way too much fun, and I don't think they will ever capture humanity. That technology will never capture humanity,
No, not at
ever.
all. No. And I hate to say a part of it is because AI can sometimes be too nice and, agreeing. And that's in psychiatry, that's gotten people into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what's wonderful is I have found a way to avoid trouble, and that is by every 13 or 14 minutes giving my sponsors a chance to talk about themselves
Great.
with no artificial pretense at all. So with that in mind, let's take a commercial break. We'll hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back with the Dr. Joe Show. And we are back with the Dr. Joe Show. Author Anne Shaw Heinrich, who is releasing her third book on June 16th, House of Teeth. It is absolutely worth pre-ordering and listening to. If you can you pre-order it yet, Anne? I hope so.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So where do people find you? Do you have a website? Where do people
I
find
do.
books? Okay.
Yeah. So you can, it's it's just AnneShawHeinrich.com. Yeah.
Okay.
And on there, it lists all the different ways you can get the book, both. And it is available in print and ebook,
Yeah.
as well as they're working on it. But the whole series will be on Audible as well. So the first two books are on
you've got
Audible.
some actors who
You know what?
are you doing it
It's
yourself?
it's not actors. It's the publisher has, like a platform kind of thing that they're using, sort of, yeah. Which, has its give and take on that. There's sometimes it's I really love it, and then but there's an opportunity to go in and edit and all that stuff.
So Outsmarting Anger, which I can't believe is now 2013. That one won Books Were Better Like Best Psychology Book of the Year. But
Wow.
we went into studio on Reddit. So I read it, Sophie reads it, one of my sons, Galen, reads it. So that's really fun. And then the latest book that came out, Don't Lose Your Beep at Work, I co-authored that with Karen Thrall, who's an executive coach, and she found some actors to record it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting because some people just like listening to the books. But of course, I don't know whether you know this, but what I can do, and I'm sure everyone can do, is you can take the PDF of a book, make it into a Word document, and then you can have your phone read it to you.
Yes.
And which can be really fun.
Yeah, I found that really helpful.
Yeah, it can be really helpful. But so people can get, and people, God Bless the Child is still available, I assume.
Yeah.
Violet is Blue, still available. House of Teeth on its way out. And then the fourth book, is there a name for it yet or not?
It is. Yeah, it's named. It's Unfettered.
Unfettered.
Yeah. And the one little piece I can give you about that is that I've already written the last chapter.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. And I started by writing the last chapter.
Well, that's fascinating. How did you do that?
Well, I knew, I think because I knew, but at that time, what is at the end goal? What did I want people to pull from it,
Right.
And I want it to be uplifting.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of tough topics, and I still just felt like I wanted people to recognize that nothing is permanent, you know what I mean? And that
it is so true.
And the world, our place in the world, what we're doing. I mean, I feel like we all have purpose and we're here for a reason, but it's very temporary and fleeting.
Yeah, I many years ago I wrote songs. One of the lines was, changes come to pass. That's the only thing that lasts.
True.
Think about it.
I know.
Always change, which is
always
part of why some people can get very anxious, because we do have a part of our brain that wants to anticipate the future, but we can't. We can't really. As I think it was Will Rogers said, prediction is very hard, especially in regard to the future. So it was, Will Rogers.
Yeah. You know what? I think as I've gotten older too, I think this might be could be best stored in the wisdom bucket.
Okay.
But what it's done for me, because you have good times and bad times and good times and bad times. And I've gotten a whole lot better about being really grateful just when I've had a regular day and going, nothing crazy happened today. This is, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't, it was all good. Like I'm going to just savor this moment. Right.
Oh, that is great. And while I would never necessarily use the word crazy to describe what I do. As a psychiatrist, it's
Yes,
very rare to not have a day in which
I'm
it
sure.
might not be me, but somebody
I
else
understand.
maybe. But you're
Like
right.
there's always chaos or, like
Right.
something's always kind of on the edge or,
Right.
that's the human condition, I think. So when things are calm, I'm gonna
Yeah.
treasure it.
And and really I do feel that on a regular basis, I do appreciate what's, you know, what's happening. Even though it's scary what's happening in the world, we're still here and we have an opportunity. And that really does get into the I am. The idea of the I am is that we're always doing the best we can. We don't have to like it, we don't have to condone it. Doesn't mean you're going to win and be successful. And for some people, success is when you love going to work and love going home. I really think that's success because you feel valued in both places. And that's what we all want. But instead of judging ourselves, let's look again at why we do what we do based on the influence of the four domains. Our home domain, no one's going to argue home has had an influence on who you are. The social domain, which is the rest of the world. Those two domains are outside. And the internal domains, the biological domain of your brain and body. Are you hungry, tired, digesting lunch, writing the last chapter of a book? And then what I call the I see. How do I see myself? How do I think other people see me? Human beings very interested in what other people think or feel. We call that empathy. But let's face it, what we really want to know is what do you think of me? And do you see me as valuable?
Mm-hmm.
And so the I am is saying, let's not judge people. Let's just wonder who we are and why we do what we do based on the influence of the domains.
Mm-hmm.
And because these four domains interact, a small change can have a big effect. We don't need to change everything.
Mm-mm.
So, Anne, based on what we're talking about tonight, what small change can you recommend to our listeners?
Stay curious.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Just allow yourself. Nobody knows all the things. None of us know everything. We just don't. So be curious. And that means about people, about a situation. If there's something that you piques your interest, let yourself find out more.
I agree. Be curious. One of the things I say is it's much more rewarding to wonder than to worry.
Right.
Just wonder.
Yeah.
Wonder what's going on in the world because there is so much wonder. So that's great.
Yeah.
Stay curious. And folks, you can be especially curious about the book coming out on June 16th, How's Your Teeth? Make sure you satisfy that curiosity.
Thanks.
The second truth of the I am, I think, is actually even more powerful. Because the four domains interact, while small change have a big effect, that I see domain is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We're really interested in what other people think or feel about us, which has an effect on our biological domain. Because, it feels different when you feel respected or disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're part of someone's home or social domain, the second truth of the I am, you control no one, but you influence everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to choose the kind of influence you want to be.
Yeah.
So Anne Shaw Heinrich, author, mother, grandmother,
Yeah.
creator, what kind of influence do you want to be?
Wow. I want people to leave conversations with me feeling hopeful about themselves and what they're already doing and contributing, you know?
How do we do that? Because I think if you can share that,
Yeah.
how do we get other people to do that as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think I just ask questions. One of the things, like literally I've spent the whole time talking about myself here, but I'm going to say that, like I I try not to talk about myself all the time
Mhm.
because that's not that interesting. And I think there are far more interesting things. So like just if people are interested and want to talk about things, but I like to hear what other people have to say too. So just not monopolize, like give other people the stage
Yeah.
some of the time, and I think if we would do that, just imagine if we applied that to if it was possible by magic or something that we could that would be a principle that everybody in the world applied to let other people have the stage.
You know,
Imagine what could we do?
yeah, I think that's so true. And my early career was in theater and
Okay.
acting. And I did
Yeah.
a long time, and we have something called drug story theater that we continue to do that with.
Mm.
But you're absolutely right. But it takes two things before, and that
Mm-hmm.
is respect and value.
Mm-hmm.
Respect leads to value,
Yeah.
and value then leads to trust. Because without that trust, no one's going to share what's really going on with it.
Mm-mm.
That part of that is certainly a theme in House of Teeth.
Yeah.
These secrets that are kept that have huge influence. Secrets aren't secrets because of what we've done. Secrets are secrets because we worry. How will someone judge me if they know my secret?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that first part of staying curious is a small change. Be curious about other people, but
Yes.
don't judge them. As
Yeah.
soon as you judge them, they're going to shut down.
They will, and you can feel when you're being judged.
Yes, that's right. And that's also
Yeah.
part of the theme of this book, the
Yeah.
social justice and the
Yeah.
equity that we foster.
We do.
All we have to do is listen.
Right?
When you share that, when you remind someone of their value, you increase your own value.
True.
Wouldn't that be great? A world like that, where everyone is just reminding each other their value. Doesn't mean you have to like someone, but you have to respect them, wonder about them. Who is that stranger walking down the street? Because that stranger is a potential friend.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, we are so polarized, and it feels like we've been in an especially long period of polarization in our
Yes.
country. I mean, it's really painful. That I think, and we're in camps, and we can have opinions about things, but
I
differ
agree.
greatly, right? But at the end of the day, there's something that like, if you try to think, what do we have in common? Well, so for some of it's not very much, but we live on the same planet.
You
We're
know,
both breathe,
we all we all want the same thing,
right?
which is just to feel valued.
Yes.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Anne Heinrich, thank you so much for being on the show tonight, folks.
Yeah.
June 16th, House of Teeth is coming out, but you can also go back and get the other books, God Bless the Child and Violet is Blue. Don't miss them. They're worth reading.
Thank you
Thanks so much, Anne. I look forward to you coming back and talking about Unfettered.
Thank
Chat then.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Good night, folks. Bye.